Hello everyone, welcome to the first lesson on chapter 18. This is 18.1. We're talking about long division. Now you've been introduced to this before, so this is just going to be a quick review to kind of refresh your skills on how to do this process called long division. You also did this in like the third grade. Just to remind you of what you did the third grade, you might have had something like this: 238 divided by 5. Okay, so what you did here was you made this division bar, 238, and then you put the 5 on the outside. Okay, so then you ask yourself, how many times does 5 go into 2? Well, it doesn't go in there at all. So then how many times does 5 go into 23? It goes in there 4 times. So now notice how you multiply it back down. Now this is an important step, class. Once you multiply it down, you subtract it, didn't you? So you took the opposite of 20, which is subtract 20. And then you get a 3. And then the next step here is you bring down the 8. So once you did that, you said how many times is 5 going to 38? And you said it was 7 times. And then once again, you multiplied back down again, so you got 35. And then at this point, you subtracted. And you got a remainder of 3. Sometimes you might have done this. You could have put remainder 3, or you might have tried to put it into a decimal. But one thing we're going to do in this class is we're just going to put the remainder over our divisor, which is 5. This is called the divisor. This right here, our answer, this is called the quotient. And then this part right here, this is called our dividend. So if you ever hear me say any of those words, now you'll know what they mean. We have our divisor, our quotient, and our dividend. Okay? So we're going to use this exact same process that we learned in the third grade, and we're going to apply it to polynomials. So here's our first one: x squared plus 2x minus 24, and we're going to divide it by the binomial x plus 4. Notice how it's the exact same thing as this. Okay? So then what we're going to do here is we are going to solve this either using long division or synthetic division. In this one, every single time, what we're going to do is we're going to use long division. Okay? So we make our division bar, right? And then we're going to ask ourselves, this first term x, how many times does it go in here? Or x times what equals x squared? Well, x times x equals x squared. So I'm going to put an x up top. Now, just like you did in the third grade, once you got this, you now multiplied it down. So you're going to take x and multiply it by x plus 4. So what's x times x? It is x squared. What's x times a negative 4? It is a negative 4x. So now that I have that, what you did next is you're going to subtract whatever you got here. So you're going to subtract this whole quantity. And class, that's the exact same as adding the opposite. So I'm going to distribute this negative sign. So it's going to be a negative x squared and a positive 4x. So those signs are always going to change. And now we're going to subtract. Now we're just going to combine like terms. So x squared minus an x squared is 0x squareds. These cancel out. And class, just so that you know, that's going to happen every single time. We rig it in such a way that that term is always going to cancel out. So that's on purpose. And then we have 2x plus 4x, that equals 6x. Now once you're at this point, you're now going to bring the next term down, just like you did in the third grade. So subtract 24. Now we're going to repeat this process. So x multiplied by what number equals 6x? Well, x times 6, so it's going to be a positive 6. So now that I have the positive 6, I'm going to multiply it back down for this binomial. So multiply it by that. So now we're going to do 6 times x is 6x. 6 times a negative 4 is a negative 24. And now, class, you're going to subtract this whole thing. So if we're going to subtract this whole thing, it means add the opposite. So I'm going to distribute those negative signs. Basically, all the signs just switch. So now we have 6x minus 6x. This cancels out, and it should happen that way. That should always, always happen. And then a negative 24 plus 24 is also 0. So what we have here, class, is we have a remainder of 0. When we have a remainder of 0, this is our answer, x plus 6. Okay? Hopefully there's no questions on that one. Let's practice another one, and then you guys are going to try one on your own. So here we have x cubed minus 6x squared plus 1, that divided by x plus 2. Now I want you guys to notice something here. We always have to go in descending order. So that's going to say we have 1x cubed minus 6x squared plus 0x's. Notice why I put 0x, because we're going x cubed, x squared, x to the first, which we don't have any of them, and then our constant term of 1. So you have to put that placeholder in if you don't have your x's going in descending order. So plus 0x's plus 1. That's going to be divided by x plus 2. And now we're going to repeat this process that we did in the last one. So x times what is x cubed? Well, that's going to be x squared. Multiply it down. X squared times x is x cubed. And x squared times a positive 2. So we first did this, and then x squared times a positive 2 is a positive 2x squared. Now we're going to subtract, which means we're going to change the signs on both of them. So x cubed minus x cubed, bam, that's gone. A negative 6x squared plus a negative 2x squared is a negative 8x squared. Bring down the 0x's. Now we're going to repeat this process again. So x times what gives a negative 8x squared? Well, that's going to be a negative 8x. So now what are we going to do? We're going to multiply this down on both those terms. So a negative 8 times x, a negative 8x times x is a negative 8x squared. A negative 8x times a positive 2 is a negative 16x. So now what are we going to do? We are going to do the opposite, which means change the sign on both of them. So this is going to be positive and this is going to be positive. Negative 8x squared plus 8x squared, bam, cancels out, and that's the way it should be. It's going to work like that every single time. And then we have 0x plus 16x is 16x. Lastly, let's bring down this 1. So a positive 1. So now we say x times what number gives 16x? Well, x times 16 gives 16x. So we're going to have a positive 16 up here. Multiply that guy down by both terms in the binomial. 16 times x is 16x. And then we have 16 times 2 is a positive 32. At this point, we're going to do the opposite, which is subtract both of them. 16x minus 16x gives 0, and that's the way it should work. 1 minus 32 is a negative 31. So class, this is our remainder. Whenever we get a remainder, here's what we're going to do with it. We're going to put it in the numerator, and our divisor is going to be the denominator. So here's our answer right here. X squared minus 8x plus 16. X squared minus 8x plus 16 plus our remainder, which is a negative 31, over our divisor, which our divisor is x plus 2. This one right here. X plus 2. So that's how you do problem number 2. Alright, I'm going to let you guys spread your wings and fly. You guys try number 3 on your own, and then you guys can check your work after you are all done with it. So after you tried this one, hopefully you set it up a little something like this. Right? You're going to set up this division bar. You're going to put in your placeholders of 0x to the 4th, 0x cubed, and 0x's. Right? And then I'll just have you read this as we go down, and you guys can check your work as we go. So, hopefully there isn't any questions on that. Certainly if there are questions, be sure to ask me when you get to class tomorrow. But here's what you should come up with your correct answer at the very end. Okay, a couple more practice problems. Here comes number 4. Now this time we're going to have a coefficient other than 1 in front of my x term, but you're going to do the exact same thing. The process remains the same. 8x cubed plus 12x squared minus 4x minus a 6, and that divided by 2x minus 1. So now we're going to ask ourselves the question, 2x times what is 8x cubed? Well, that's going to be 4x squared. Multiply it down. 4x squared times 2x is 8x cubed. 4x squared times a negative 1 is a negative 4x squared. Change the sign on both of those. This one cancels, and we are left with 16x squareds. Bring down this negative 4x. Repeat the process. 2x times what gives 16x squared? And that answer is a positive 8x. Multiply it down. 8x times 2x is 16x squared. 8x times a negative 1 is a negative 8x. Let's do the opposite, which means subtract this and add this. So now this cancels out, and we get a positive 4x. And then we have to bring down our constant term, so that negative 6 is going to come all the way down. Okay, 2x times what is 4x? Well, 2x times 2. So I'm going to have a positive 2 right there. Multiply it down. 2 times 2x is 4x. And then we have 2 times a negative 1 is a negative 2. Once you do the opposite, those cancel out, and we get a negative 4 as a remainder. So our answer is this with the remainder of 4. So it's going to be 4x squared plus 8x. 4x squared plus 8x plus 2 plus a remainder of a negative 4 divided by our divisor, which is 2x minus 1. This is our answer for problem number 4. Let's try one more problem all together as a class, and then you guys can try number 6 on your own again. Okay? So here comes problem number 5. 8x to the 4th minus 4x squared. Whoa, 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 placeholder, placeholder. So 8x to the 4th plus 0x cubed minus 4x squared plus an x plus 4. So make sure you always go in descending order and put placeholders in for a term that is maybe not there. And then divided by 2x plus 1. Alright, so now we're going to have 4x cubed. Multiply it down. 4x cubed times 2x is 8x to the 4th. 4x cubed times 1 is 4x cubed. Let's subtract them. So now this is gone, and we have a negative 4x cubed. Bringing down the negative 4x squared. 2x times a negative 2x squared is going to be that negative 4x cubed. So let's multiply it back down again. We have a negative 4x cubed. And then a negative 2x squared times a positive 1 is a negative 2x squared. Continuing to simplify here, let's subtract both of these, or take the opposite. So that's going to be 0 here and a negative 2x squared. Almost done here, bringing down that x, bringing down the positive x. Now let's ask ourselves the question, 2x times what number is 2x squared? And that's going to be a negative x. Multiply down a negative x times 2x is a negative 2x squared. And then we have our negative x times a positive 1, which is a negative x. Let's subtract, which means take the opposite. So now this and this, change the sign. This cancels out, and we have a positive 2x. Alright, just about done. Let's bring down that positive 4. Now we're going to ask ourselves the question, 2x times what number is 2x? And that number is going to be 1. So our constant term is 1 right here. Multiply that down. 1 times 2x is 2x. And then 1 times 1 is 1. So what do we end up getting for our remainder when we subtract both of these? Cancels out, and we get a 3. Our remainder on this one is a 3. So we're going to end up with 4x cubed minus 2x squared. (4x cubed minus 2x squared) minus an x plus 1 plus our remainder of 3 divided by our divisor of 2x plus 1. Here's our answer for problem number 5. So problem number 6 again, class, you guys try on your own, and then you can check your work with mine on the smartboard after you're done with that. Hopefully you get something that looks like this. Once again, class, I'm not going to go through this. I'm going to let you guys do this on your own, and then if you have any questions, be sure to come to me to class tomorrow saying, Mr. Berge, I didn't get number 6. Can you show me how to do it, so on and so forth. So we have a worksheet coming up on this lesson when you get to class tomorrow. Let me know if you have any questions on that worksheet as well.